Thank you very much, Cindy, for the cheering. I feel like I was kind of shadow boxing already. It's good to be here. Thank you for the invitations, Doug, and see so many familiar faces, Sandiaga and Kevin, saw some from Indonesia as well. This is a great honor, but before you were wondering what is PT Social Entrepreneur Indonesia, this is the first time I see that here, so it may be the wrong logo, but but that happens to me a lot in my business. Some investment made, some investments didn't make, some company that I not even associated with appear. But that's life, I guess, and don't change it. Hopefully, one day I'll be associated with this company. I guess a little bit of a background. I'm here to learn. You guys are amazing and I have amazing stories. But before I go into social entrepreneurship, I'm actually, my real day job is a private equity entrepreneur like Pak Tan here, which I kind of stumbled upon, really didn't have a light bulb moment to become a private equity investors. Come back to 1997, I was living here actually in Singapore, and I was happily working as a professional. One day in beginning of 1997, at the onset of the financial crisis, I found something on my table, which is basically a letter of terminations of my employment. I was working for an investment firm. People say that it is called pink slip. I didn't, the letter was just simply white. It's not even, it doesn't have any fancy color, but it's basically telling me that I have to go back and basically pack my bag. Being young, and at that time, I was not prepared. My mother was a teacher and still is a teacher, and my dad works as a professional in a multinational company in Jakarta. I was not prepared to basically go back and start a new sort of like a journey back in Indonesia. But I had two options. One is to go back to Jakarta and apply for a job. And at that time in Indonesia, cars were burning on the street. You can't know about this. If I apply for 10 job applications, I would probably get 15 rejections. That was that bad in Indonesia. Suharto, the strongman, fell. So the second alternative, which is kind of happened by default or by accident, is that I had to start something. And I met my high school friend, and we started a consulting company. First, we provide consulting services for companies that is undergoing a restructuring through the Asian financial crisis. How I stumbled upon private equity, because I met Bienket, and we learn as we go, and we learn from the discipline that throughout the crisis, actually there are a lot of social issues that we're facing in Indonesia, and there is also other than the social, is also economic inequality. So Doug reminded me I'm not to spend more than 5 minutes talking about myself. I think we use the same principle in private equity to look at the social landscape in Indonesia. This is a country, 250 million people, very large, where it's now, according to the World Bank, top 10 economies of the world. Indonesia is the largest archipelago. But because probably government is too busy politicking, business people too busy making money for themselves, a little bit corrupt sometimes, and academia they're actually busy also on their space. There are many social problems that happen in Indonesia that was not attended by academia, business, or government. So civil society actually produces social entrepreneurship. And, you know, I happened to also meet some of the early adopter of social entrepreneurship in Indonesia. In 2009, we started the associations for social entrepreneurs. So we come across people from different parts of Indonesia that focus on pretty much making sure that some of the social problems that has not been fixed by government or by business is being solved. So people like Pak Hadi Sulis, which is basically coming from a place in East Java, he found a problem whereby his father was a milk farmer, and the milk goes bad after 20 days. So, and he doesn't have a freezer. How does he make sure that the product will still be good after 20 days? So he innovated a technology whereby he pasteurized the milk so it can stay for good without killing the good bacteria for about another 40 days. That completely changed his livelihood, whereby the father can actually produce more income and he can go to school. Pak Nur Huda, Toshi knows about this man, actually saw two issues in Indonesia. First is the environmental issues. Second is the healthcare issues, whereby a stove in an Indonesian family, especially in the rural village, is basically put inside the house and created so much smoke, and it caused some respiratory disease. And also some of the problem resulting from the subsidy of the kerosene. When the subsidy is now, like today, the Indonesian government is facing problems with subsidy, kerosene becomes scarce and they don't have supply of kerosene. So Pak Nur Huda, through the associations, created a biomass stove, whereby it could use any of the biomass around the house, and it doesn't produce the smoke that will cause your lungs to be suffocated. So these type of social issues are addressed by social entrepreneurs, and we at the associations actually spend time to first identify them, recognize them, and then we also basically mentor, and sometimes we also provide funding. I think we applied the private equity way of doing this. Many of you are private equity investors here, because deploying $1 in comparisons to deploying $10 is actually, you have to go the same diligence. So I guess what I learned from private equity is you have to have the right due diligence. You have to understand the character of the social innovators or social investors or social entrepreneurs. Go through with them, and it's never instantaneous. It's always a process, 2 to 3 months process. Negotiating your involvement. They don't understand books. They don't understand legal aspect of it. So you need to walk with them and making sure the investments would work and monitor that and making sure that it makes impacts. In the case of Pak Nur Huda, he has basically been successful in producing from one stove to about, now he supplied 25,000 stoves now across Indonesia. Hadi, who supplied the milk, now have gone from East Java to Jakarta, and he's opening up branches across Indonesia. This model was actually being experienced by me in the private equity. We started 3 people, Pak Edwin, myself, and Ibu Yanti. Today, Saratoga Group basically provide opportunity for work for more than 30,000 employees across Indonesia. So that is the same type of impact that you would want to see, I guess, when you identify social entrepreneurship. I also wanted to discuss a little bit about fisheries. A bit earlier, I met from RARE, Dave. We also invested in a fish processing company, whereby in the last 5 years, they've been seeing more and more less supply, or actually less and less supply of fish of any quality. So you need to have an innovations on how to make sure that the supply will stay very, very robust. So you work with communities, and here you find communities around the coastal is very, very in a difficult shape. So I guess as an investors, you cannot just rely and wait in the factory, but you have to go out and work with the communities. Today, we have, through our work with the communities, the same fish processing company have been able to improve the facilities, double the revenues, and quadruple the amount of value-added products that they sell. So engagement like this, I guess, from the social angle, is something that I see more and more similarity, and also the same type of diligence and the same type of strategies that we employ in private equity can be used here. So social problems we see, especially in Indonesia, are getting more and more complex. They cannot be solved anymore by one or two solutions. They can't be solved anymore by a conventional approach. The type of, I guess, problems becoming more and more diverse, and the innovations have to be more and more specific. So we need social entrepreneurs. These people have basically extraordinary way to solve the society problems. And I think social improvements being made in Indonesia is probably supported by the activity of social entrepreneurs. I would guess probably 20% of the social improvements made in the rural areas in Indonesia are actually contributed by social entrepreneurs. The third largest democracy in Indonesia, a country where I come from, 250 million people, second longest stretch of beaches or coastals in the world after Canada. The conventional wisdom is that we should be sufficient on salt. Today, Indonesia imports salts. Why? There are no entrepreneurs or governments or business or academia focusing on that. The countries with the largest deposits of geothermal, 40% of the world's geothermal are in Indonesia. The world's largest exporter of thermal coal, Indonesia, today is facing blackout. Not in other parts of Indonesia, but in Jakarta. Yesterday, 2 hours of blackout in Jakarta. I was doing some basically work with people from WWF, and around 30th of March, I was told, Sandi, please support this Earth Hour movement that we have. So, I innocently said, okay, let's do it. Okay, what to tweet? Give the Earth a break. Switch off your light from 8:30 to 9:30 tonight. So I said, okay. So around 6 p.m., the same day, I tweeted, give the Earth a break. All Indonesia, you should switch off the light from 8:30 to 9:30. Within minutes, 300 mentions, one from Medan. I said, we Earth Hour every day. 5 hours every day. People from Sulawesi, well, actually, it's 1 hour of lights. So you see, we don't have electricity, and how can you move forward in the economy without the electricity? So come Tri Mumpuni from IBK, I think many of you know here. Her works on microhydro is completely impressive, whereby she would come to far-flung places around Indonesia and produce electricity from microhydro power plant. So these type of issues, I think social improvement, social problems is being tackled by social entrepreneurs. Our GDP has grown 10 times since the day I started the business in 1998. Our GDP now, basically, if you compare it to before the Asian financial crisis or during the Asian financial crisis, is about 10 times more. But the Gini ratio have increased from 0.37 to 0.41. So what happened is the rich is getting richer, the poor is getting poorer. Some of these issues are not being addressed. So the social entrepreneurship, I think, should raise to the occasions and try to produce some, because otherwise you can see what happened, the riots in 1998 happening again, whereby the social jealousy and basically the demonstrations will be created. Anti-Chinese movement, I think we have graduated so much from, and so far from 1997-98. We have an anti-Chinese riot in 1998, whereby everybody fled the country here to Singapore. Some stayed here, some went back. But today, Jakarta is actually at a point whereby it will have the first Chinese governor after 18 years in Jakarta. If Jokowi wins the presidency in July at the elections, we will have Ahok, somebody by the name of Ahok. I just couldn't imagine. On the largest Muslim country in the world, the capital will be led by a governor by the name of Ahok. So you see how society has changed, and I think entrepreneur of today will have to develop much greater issues and greater sense of responsibility for survival and success. This is a place whereby we can collaborate. I see many bright ideas. I've been spending the whole morning meeting with people, and I think AVPN, I have to thank Doc for this work. Sharing best practices is how we think we should collaborate going forward. Sometimes we like to compete, we forgot to collaborate. And the actions that needs to be done is today. The actions that we have learned from this event could be applied today and can save so many issues that surround us, especially in Indonesia. So again, thank you. I think we have a responsibility to shape a better world. Social entrepreneurs play such a significant role, and I look forward for future collaborations. Thank you very much.